Episode 9 of the Daily Dozen as we continue to make our way through the list of players to watch in 2014. That's Jason Jewell. I'm Jared Cohen. I'm going to start on this episode going to an offensive lineman over at Centennial. Marshall Nathey was a starter last season. He's the younger brother of Spencer Nathey, who's now playing at Colorado State Pueblo at the next level. But Marshall Nathey on his way to being a 3-year starter on the offensive line at a school that is just notorious for pushing out offensive linemen to play at a high level after high school. Marshall Nathey going to be a junior, one of the top offensive linemen in the 2016 class.
I'm staying in the trenches, going to the other side of the ball. Defensive tackle Dominic Natoli at Saguaro just gets it done. One of my favorite players. He plays football how it's supposed to be played. He's just tough and a physical presence. He's what you need from a defensive tackle standpoint, and he is a leader on that defensive line. Coach Mons really likes him. Now, if you look at Dominic, he's not your physical, imposing kid. He's not 6'3", but he's probably 5'10", 280 pounds, just strong and a fire plug inside.
Going back to Centennial, but staying on the defensive line, is Micah Neverett. Now, this is a kid, Jason, under the radar, was one of the top defensive linemen in the state last season as a junior, was one among the state's leaders in sacks with 17 last season, plus going up against offensive linemen like Marshall Nathey and the other great offensive linemen that they've had over the years, has probably taken this kid's game to another level in practice every day. He has an offer from the University of Mary and expects to be one of the sack leaders once again in 2014.
Quarterback Austin Nightingale was off to a great junior season until he tore his ACL in a TV game last year. He started as a sophomore, started those first few games as a junior, now fully recovered. I'm expecting him to have a chip on his shoulder and come out and produce. He basically needs to fit 2 seasons of playing time into 1 season, so I expect him to put up good numbers for Perry this season.
Zach Werlinger's favorite target last year for Basha was Doc O'Connor. Had over 1,100 yards receiving and 9 touchdowns as a junior last year, and he looks to make just as big of an impact in year 1 under Coach Todd over for the Basha Bears. Doc O'Connor picked up some offers during spring evaluation period this past year. He received some attention because of the great season he had, and will be one of the leaders under this new era of Basha Bears football.
When I went out to a North Canyon game last year, I look at their roster, and all I see is Akwali, the 3 brothers last year, and they're all very talented. But right now, I'm going to focus just on John, only going to be a junior, wide receiver, defensive back. Last season had almost 600 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. But a good player, under the radar right now, but if you go out and you make it out to a Rattlers game, he is definitely going to be one that the announcers are going to be continually saying his name because he has talent.
Very talented player out at North Canyon. My next player is from Brophy. Isaiah Oliver, one of the best two-way players in the state last season, was all section at both wide receiver and defensive back. Going to be a leader for this Brophy Broncos team and expects to have another big season. A lot of up-and-coming talent on this Brophy team. Kind of reminds me of when Devin Allen and Tyler Brugman and all that team, Robert Ralph, all those players kind of came up through the ranks, and as they got older, they became a very good team with young prospects. I see Brophy doing something very similar. We mentioned Connor Murphy already. Isaiah Oliver is another one of those players.
When I went out in the spring to Williamsfield, Coach Campbell was really raving about his wide receiver, Kenny Owens. He thinks the guy has just tremendous upside. He's a 3-sport player, a talented guy. Last year only caught about 20 passes. He was overshadowed, but now this is going to be his team. Campbell again expects a breakout year because he's played basketball. He's a track kid that runs under 11 seconds in the 100 meters. He has that speed. At 6'2" and 185 pounds, he is going to be definitely a threat and has an offer already from UNLV, but if he has that breakout year like Campbell is expecting, expect more schools to come calling.
Barry Goldwater High School could be a team to really watch out for this season. They've got some players, and one of the leaders on their defense is Zeke Polomaris. Last season as a junior had over 80 tackles, also had a few interceptions, and is a very talented player on the defensive side of the ball. Not the first player we're going to mention from Goldwater, and he won't be the last. There's some players. They could be a team to keep an eye on this season.
Now, I've covered Addison Palomino. I've covered Devin Palomino. Both end up going Division I. The next one's going to be Easton Palomino. He's only going to be a junior. He's going to be a quarterback at Deer Valley. Has not started a varsity game yet because he was the backup to his brother Devin, who's now at the University of San Diego. But Deer Valley was one of those teams last year, was a Cinderella school, went all the way to the semifinals last year, losing to eventual Division II state champ Sal Point. But if the Skyhawks are going to have a good season, it's going to be because Palomino is going to break out. Again, only going to be a junior, but he has talent and has ability.
Everyone around that are Arizona Cardinals fans in the state are really excited about the first-round draft pick of Dejon Bucannon because of his hard-hitting, really tough style of play as a safety. The high school equivalent of that, not to compare him too much to Buchanan, but that same type of player is Ryan Parento at Boulder Creek. Hard-hitting safety. Feel like he's been there for years because he's been on the team on the varsity level for so long. Finally going to be a senior this season, and man, is it fun to watch him play. If you have an opportunity to see Boulder Creek, keep an eye out for Ryan Parento.
Speaking of a guy that seems like we've been covering for years, Caleb Pert at Hamilton, finally going to be a senior. He's been starting on the varsity team since he was a freshman, and he is just a guy that gets after it. He plays football so hard. He's great technically, gets after the quarterback, one of the state sack leaders, but also a great student that has a well above a 3.0 GPA and has verbally committed to a good academic school in Vanderbilt.
That's it for episode 9 of the Daily Dozen. Episode 10 coming up with some big names on it, so make sure you keep an eye out for that one.